Close your eyes and let the noise of the world fade away. Tonight, we travel to a time long before the modern world, to a place where endless deserts met snow-capped mountains, and the wind carried not just dust, but the dreams of nations. This is the beginning of the Silk Road, the great artery of civilization that connected East and West for over 2,000 years. It was not born in a day, nor crafted by a single empire. It emerged quietly, like a trail of footprints through the sand, formed by merchants, wanderers, and dreamers who dared to cross the unknown. As always, I choose not to include ads in my videos, so you can relax and drift off peacefully without distractions after a long, busy day. It's more important to me that you rest well than to earn from ads. Before we begin, I'd love to know where you are listening from and what time you are now down below in the comments. I love seeing where everyone's tuning in from. Whether you're settling in for the night or just curious about where these legends came from, I'm glad you're here. Also, share which stories you'd love to hear next. And don't forget to subscribe and share it to someone who loves it too. Long before it had a name, the Silk Road existed in fragments, paths used by nomads and shepherds, trails winding through the heart of Asia. But it was in the 2nd century before Christ that these paths were joined together for the first time. In the eastern lands beyond the Great Wall of China ruled the mighty Han dynasty. The emperor, Wu of Han, was ambitious. He wished to expand his empire and find allies beyond the vast deserts. And so, in the year 138 BCE, he sent a man named Zhang Chen westward, a journey that would change the course of history. Zhang Chen was no ordinary traveler. He carried no army, only a handful of men and the emperor's trust. His mission? To find new lands, new peoples, and perhaps new power. But his journey was cursed with hardship. Captured by the fierce Xiongnu nomads, he spent over a decade in captivity. Yet even as a prisoner, he never gave up his mission. Years later, he escaped, scarred but alive, and continued westward into the lands of Bactria and Fergana. When he finally returned to China, the emperor listened in awe. Zhang Qian spoke of vast kingdoms beyond the desert, of strong horses that could outrun the wind, of spices, glass, and gold unknown to the east. His maps and stories opened the emperor's imagination, and soon the first caravans began to move west. At first, it was small, a few merchants leading camels heavy with silk. But with every journey, the trail grew wider, the camps grew larger, and the world began to connect. The Chinese called it the Road of Silk and Horses. In Persia, it was simply known as the Road of the Sun. Each traveler carried not only goods, but stories. stories that crossed deserts, languages, and lifetimes. And as they moved, they left behind whispers in the sand, tales of distant lands and mysterious wonders. Picture it now. The pale moonlight spills across the dunes of the Taklamakan Desert. A caravan moves slowly through the night, dozens of camels walking in a line, their bells chiming softly. The merchants speak in low voices, wrapped in robes against the cold wind. Behind them, the desert stretches endlessly, golden by day, silver by night. Ahead, the promise of an oasis glows like a dream. In those nights of silence, under the stars, men from different worlds shared the same sky, the same hunger for connection. From that moment, the Silk Road was not just a path for trade, it was a bridge between worlds. Silk, gold, and jade were the treasures of the journey, but ideas, faith, and friendship were the treasures of the soul. Through this fragile thread of sand and stone, humanity began to weave itself together.
The night fades softly into dawn. The cool breath of the desert gives way to the warmth of morning light as the long caravan begins to move once again. Ahead lies a world of color, sound, and wonder. A string of cities scattered across the endless sands, each one like a jewel glowing in the distance. These were the golden cities of the Silk Road, places where the East met the West, where languages, beliefs, and dreams mixed beneath the same sun. They were not empires of war or conquest, but crossroads of peace, where every traveler found a piece of home in a foreign land. The first great oasis on this journey was Dunhuang, resting at the edge of the Gobi Desert. Here, weary merchants found rest and water, their camels finally free from the dust of the dunes. But Dunhuang was more than a refuge. It was a gateway. Within its caves, monks and artists painted walls with scenes of paradise, gods, and distant lands. By torchlight, travelers would kneel before shimmering murals that told stories of faith and fate. These were the Mogao Caves, carved into cliffs of stone, their silence echoing with the prayers of countless souls who passed through on their way to the unknown. At night, the flicker of oil lamps cast shadows across the painted Buddhas, and in the quiet, one could almost hear the whispers of travelers long gone. Beyond Dunhuang, the road wound westward into the Tarim Basin, where the world grew larger and stranger with each step. Here stood Khotan, a kingdom famed for its jade, a stone so pure it was said to hold the breath of heaven. From the riverbeds, men panned for it like gold, trading it eastward for silk and silver. In return, they received tales of the great Chinese cities beyond the desert, places most would never see, but all could imagine. And then came Kashgar, the beating heart of the Silk Road. Here, mountains rose like the walls of heaven, the Pamirs, where snow never melts and the sky feels close enough to touch. In the bustling markets of Kashgar, one could hear a dozen tongues at once: Chinese, Persian, Turkish, Sanskrit, Arabic. Silk lay beside Roman glass. Spices from India mingled with the scent of Central Asian bread. And at sunset, as merchants closed their stalls, musicians played lutes and drums, and storytellers began their nightly tales. Under the orange glow of oil lamps, the city felt alive, a living tapestry woven from every corner of the world. Further west, beyond the mountains, rose another legend, Samarkand, the city of blue domes and golden dreams. Even in ancient times, it shimmered like a mirage, a place of scholars, poets, and kings. Caravans arrived from China, Persia, Arabia, and Rome, their goods filling the markets until the air itself seemed rich with scent and song. Here, silk met silver, jade met glass, and ideas met belief. Philosophers debated beneath tiled arches, and travelers found wisdom in languages they did not speak. Samarkand was not just a city, it was the beating heart of connection. As the stars returned to the sky, the merchants gathered by their fires. They spoke softly of the journey ahead, of the dangers in the mountains, of the bandits that lurked in the shadows, and of the promise of the west beyond the horizon. But for now, they rested beneath the calm desert moon. The night wind carried the faint smell of spice and firewood, and for a moment, time itself seemed to sleep. The Silk Road was not a single path. It was a living web, 1,000 roots and countless hearts intertwined. Each city, each traveler, each whispered trade made the world just a little smaller and a little more connected. As the fires dim and silence returns, the road calls once more. The desert stirs once more. In the soft light before dawn, shadows begin to move, the silhouettes of camels rising slowly from the sand. Their bells chime gently in the still air, and one by one, the caravan prepares for another day's long march across the earth's most ancient road. The merchants move quietly. Each step of the journey is a ritual, wrapping the robes, tying the ropes, loading the goods. Bundles of silk, sacks of jade, spices sealed in clay jars, and rolls of parchment are stacked carefully upon the backs of the patient beasts. The sun has not yet risen, but already the Silk Road awakens. For those who traveled it, this path was both a promise and a peril. The Taklamakan Desert, they said, was a place you could enter but never return from. Its name, whispered among travelers, meant the desert of death. Yet through its heart the merchants passed, guided by faith and necessity, their lives bound to the rhythm of wind and sand. The air was dry and biting, the dunes shifting like waves in a golden sea. When the wind rose, it sang through the hollows of the desert, a haunting sound, like voices from long ago. Some said it was the ghosts of lost caravans calling to the living. Others said it was the earth itself, reminding men of their fragility. But still, they walked on. By day, the heat was merciless. The horizon shimmered with false lakes, mirages that tempted the weary. Men wrapped their faces against the burning air, leading camels in slow, patient lines. At times, the world was nothing but sky and sand, no sound but the steady crunch of hooves and the soft groan of leather. At night, the world transformed. The heat faded and the stars came alive, thousands of them scattered like jewels across the heavens. The Milky Way stretched overhead like a pale ribbon of silk, as if the heavens themselves mirrored the path below. Beneath that silent dome, merchants shared small fires and simple meals. They spoke of faraway lands, of cities where the streets were paved in stone, of temples filled with light, of oceans they would never see. Some journeys lasted months, others years. The Silk Road was not a single road, but a vast, shifting web. Caravans might begin in Chang'an, the great capital of China, and end in Antioch, at the edge of the Mediterranean world. Every mountain pass, every oasis, every border meant new dangers and new friendships. There were bandits who watched from the cliffs, storms that buried travelers in sand, and rivers that froze men in their tracks. But there were also acts of kindness, a stranger offering water, a village sharing shelter, a guide leading the way beneath the moon. Each step, each voice, each shared moment turned the Silk Road into something more than a trade route. It became a lifeline of humanity itself. In the great empires that bordered this path, the Han, the Parthians, the Kushans, and the Romans, caravans were the veins that carried life. From east to west, silk flowed like sunlight, while gold and glass returned in shimmering streams. Alongside them traveled something invisible yet eternal: ideas. A new language, a new melody, a belief whispered across borders. These were treasures far greater than gold. Through the voices of the merchants, the world learned to listen to itself. And so the road stretched on, through desert, steppe, and mountain, linking the lives of strangers who would never meet. The merchants were the unseen hands that stitched the world together, one grain of sand at a time. When night fell once more, the desert grew quiet again. The last embers faded from the fires, and the stars returned to their silent watch.
Somewhere in the distance, the soft bells of a caravan drifted through the wind, fading into the endless dark, like a dream half remembered at dawn.
The Silk Road was never only a path of trade. It was a river of belief, flowing through deserts, mountains, and the hearts of countless travelers. Alongside silk and spices, another kind of treasure moved, invisible, weightless, and yet powerful enough to reshape entire civilizations. That treasure was faith. As the caravans crossed from east to west, they carried with them not only goods, but ideas of heaven and destiny, gods and salvation. The merchants who bartered in the market by day often gathered beneath the stars at night, telling stories of spirits, prophets, and sacred lands. And slowly, quietly, the Silk Road became a bridge between the souls of worlds. In the east, among the peaceful valleys of India, a gentle voice began to rise. The teachings of Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha. His words spoke of compassion, of suffering, and of the quiet path to enlightenment. Monks traveled north and west, carrying scrolls written on palm leaves, their heads shaved, their robes dyed the color of saffron. They walked the same paths as the traders, stopping at oases and villages, offering wisdom instead of wares. Wherever they rested, small shrines began to appear, then temples, then great monasteries that shimmered with golden statues and walls painted with stories of peace. In Dunhuang, where the desert meets the mountains, travelers found sanctuary in the Mogao caves, vast chambers carved into stone, filled with quiet light. Inside, monks painted the stories of the Buddha across the walls, their pigments made from crushed minerals and desert flowers. To this day, the colors still glow faintly, like echoes of devotion that never faded. Further west, through Persia and beyond, Zoroastrian fire temples burned bright. Their flames symbolized purity, an eternal light that fought against the shadows of chaos. When travelers from China saw these sacred fires, they called them the lights that never die. And perhaps they saw something familiar, a reflection of their own search for meaning. Then came the winds of the Middle East, carrying with them the voice of Islam. By the 7th century, caravans began to speak new words: Allah, Prophet, peace be upon him. In the golden cities of Samarkand and Bukhara, minarets rose like watchful towers over the markets. The call to prayer drifted through the air, blending with the sound of merchants and music. Islam brought unity to the Silk Road, weaving distant lands into one vast world of trade and trust. It offered law, ethics, and shared language, allowing strangers to meet not as foreigners, but as brothers of faith. Under its guiding light, science, medicine, and poetry flourished. Paper from China, numbers from India, and words from Arabia intertwined to create the fabric of knowledge we know today. And in the far west, across mountains, rivers, and seas, Christianity reached eastward through the hands of Nestorian monks. They carried crosses carved from wood and books written in Aramaic, spreading stories of Christ to the great cities of Asia. In time, even in the heart of China, small churches stood beside Buddhist pagodas and Persian fire temples. Different prayers rose into the same sky, carried away by the same wind. For centuries, these beliefs met and mingled along the road, not always peacefully, but often beautifully. There were debates under desert stars, exchanges of philosophy and art, and the blending of symbols and stories. Some merchants wore amulets from 3 different faiths, whispering to whichever god might listen that day. Because on the Silk Road, the journey itself was the prayer, and the open horizon was the temple. So, as you close your eyes, imagine that ancient world, a caravan pausing at twilight, a monk lighting a lantern at the mouth of a cave, a call to prayer echoing through the desert wind, and a single thread of silk fluttering between them all, tying their destinies together. Far to the west of China's mountains, beyond the rivers and endless plains, the Silk Road stretched like a silver thread toward the heart of empires. Each kingdom it touched left its mark, and each one in turn was changed forever. From the Han dynasty in the east to Rome in the west, silk became more than cloth. It became a symbol of desire, a measure of wealth, and a weapon of diplomacy. When Roman merchants first saw Chinese silk, they were stunned. It was lighter than air, softer than the finest wool, and it shimmered with the light of dawn. No one in the West knew where it came from, only that it was brought by mysterious traders from distant lands. They called them the Siris, the people of silk. In Rome, senators and nobles competed to own it. Silk became a mark of status, worn by emperors and courtesans alike. Poets wrote that it looked as though the wearer was clothed in sunlight itself. But silk was not just beauty, it was power. The Romans spent vast sums on it, sending gold eastward in exchange. And as the coins flowed across the deserts and mountains, the balance of the ancient world shifted quietly toward the east. The Parthian Empire, stretched across Persia, became the middle bridge between China and Rome. They guarded their position fiercely, controlling every trade route and taxing every caravan that passed. Their cities, Merv, Nisa, and Ctesiphon, glittered with foreign treasures. Here, Chinese silk met Indian spices, Arabian glass, and Roman silver. In their markets, dozens of tongues could be heard at once: Greek, Persian, Sanskrit, Arabic,
and Chinese, all mingling beneath the scent of incense and the cry of camels. To walk through a Parthian bazaar was to walk through the world itself. To the north, the Kushan Empire watched over the mountain passes of Central Asia. They were heirs to Greek soldiers who had marched east with Alexander the Great centuries before. Now their descendants ruled lands where Greek temples stood beside Buddhist stupas, and coins bore both Greek gods and Indian deities. Their cities, like Bactra and Kapisa, became crossroads of cultures, places where East and West met not in war, but in wonder. It was through the Kushans that Buddhism found its way to China, carried along by monks who followed the same paths as the traders, guided by the same stars. Meanwhile, in the distant West, Rome grew rich on the luxuries of the East, yet restless too. They longed to know the true source of silk. Emperors sent envoys to find the mysterious land of the Sires. Few ever returned. The journey was long, the deserts merciless, and the Parthians had no desire to reveal their secret. And so silk remained a mystery, a whisper, a legend, a dream. Beyond the cities, the caravans still moved. They passed through oases like Samarkand and Kashgar, where life bloomed from water and trade. Everywhere the same rhythm played out, camels resting, fires burning, languages blending. The Silk Road was not just a trade route, it was a living bridge between the ambitions of emperors and the dreams of ordinary men. But with wealth came danger. Where gold flowed, so too did envy. Bandits, warlords, and rival kingdoms began to rise along the routes. A single caravan might carry the riches of an entire city: silk, jade, coral, amber, pearls, and spices. It was enough to tempt even the most loyal guards. And yet, still they came, for every road was a promise, and every traveler a dreamer. As the centuries passed, the Silk Road became the heartbeat of the ancient world, pulsing with trade, ideas, and hope. But it also became the stage for something greater, the meeting of worlds, where East and West finally saw each other not as shadows, but as mirrors. When the night falls over these ancient lands, imagine the flicker of torches on city walls. Imagine the scent of burning myrrh, the soft sound of coins passing from one hand to another, and the faint rustle of silk in the breeze. For in those moments, quiet, timeless, history was not written in books, but whispered across the sand.
The Silk Road was never truly peaceful.
For every caravan that passed through its sands, there were armies that sought to control it. To rule the Silk Road was to hold the pulse of the world, the wealth of nations, the whispers of belief, and the flow of power itself. From the dawn of the Han dynasty to the rise of Mongol Khans, great rulers looked east and west and dreamed of owning the road of silk and stars. It began with Emperor Wu of Han in ancient China. In the 2nd century BCE, he sent his envoy Zhang Xian on a mission that would forever change history. Zhang traveled across deserts and mountains, seeking allies against the nomads of the north. What he found instead were new lands, new peoples, and the first glimpses of the vast world beyond China's borders. When Zhang returned, his stories astonished the Han court. Tales of horses that could sweat blood, of lands rich in gold, and of distant kingdoms that might trade with them. From that moment, Emperor Wu understood trade was as powerful as war. He opened the western gates of China, building garrisons along the deserts and fortifying the route that would one day be called the Silk Road. To the west, Persian kings dreamed of the same. The Achaemenian Empire, long before the Han, had already woven a vast network of roads, the Royal Road, connecting the heart of Persia to the edges of the Mediterranean. When the Silk Road came into being, Persia's lands became its crossroads. Centuries later, under the Sasanian Empire, Persia again ruled the middle of the world. Their cities, Tisiphon, Nishapur, and Ray, became jewels of the desert, filled with silks, jewels, and the hum of languages. The Sasanians guarded the routes fiercely, knowing that whoever controlled trade controlled destiny. But destiny has a way of shifting, and sometimes it rides on horseback. From the western steppes came a storm, the Mongols. Led by Genghis Khan, they swept across Asia like wind and thunder. To many, they brought fear. To the Silk Road, they brought unity. Under Mongol rule, the world opened in ways it never had before. Caravans could travel from China to Europe under a single empire, protected by Mongol banners. Merchants, scholars, and explorers crossed freely from east to west, carrying not only goods, but knowledge and invention.
For the first time in history, the Silk Road became a true bridge between civilizations. It was said that a young woman carrying a purse of gold could walk from Beijing to Baghdad without fear. It was during this time that a Venetian merchant named Marco Polo journeyed eastward, guided by the stories of the road. His travels took him to the court of Kublai Khan, Genghis Khan's grandson, in the grand city of Khanbalik, modern-day Beijing.
There he witnessed a world of riches beyond anything known in Europe. Paper money, grand palaces, spices from lands unknown, and silks so fine they glowed like moonlight. When Marco Polo returned home, his tales were met with disbelief. He spoke of cities larger than any in Christendom, of black stones that burned like fire, coal, and of a world that seemed closer to heaven than earth. But in time, his book, The Travels of Marco Polo, would awaken Europe's hunger for the East and for the Silk Road's wonders. Beyond empires and armies, there were others who shaped the road, the unseen souls who carried the world on their backs. Nomads, merchants, monks, and wanderers who knew the secret paths through the desert winds. They were the lifeblood of the Silk Road, the quiet travelers who connected empires far greater than themselves. They spoke 1,000 tongues, carried countless dreams, and though their names are lost, their footsteps remain, pressed softly into the dust of time. By the height of the Mongol Empire, the Silk Road was more than a trade route. It was the heartbeat of the world. Knowledge flowed as freely as silk. Astronomy, medicine, maps, and inventions crossed continents. Paper, gunpowder, and the compass, all born in China, began their journey westward, reshaping the destiny of nations. And from the West came new ideas, philosophies, and stories that found a home in the East. It was as though the entire world was breathing together, one long, slow exhale through the winds of history. When the night settles once more, imagine the glow of campfires stretching from China to the Caspian Sea. Thousands of travelers sleeping beneath the same sky, their dreams carried by the same wind. The sound of a distant horse bell, the smell of smoke and cinnamon, and the whisper of silk in the dark. These were the empires that dreamed of silk, and through them the world learned to dream together.
The Silk Road was never just a highway of trade. It was a bridge of souls, a great web that connected the dreams, faiths, and imaginations of countless civilizations. And when its roads were at their busiest, humanity entered a time unlike any other, a golden age of exchange. From the 2nd century BCE to the 14th century CE, the Silk Road stretched like a living river, carrying not just goods, but ideas, art, and spirit. Chinese silk flowed westward, yes, but with it came stories, melodies, and philosophies. And from the other end of the world came glass from Rome, ivory from Africa, gemstones from India, manuscripts from Persia, and paintings from Byzantium.
Each culture added its color to the road, like threads in a vast tapestry, the tapestry of the human story. In the markets of Samarkand and Bukhara, the world gathered. Greek sculptors shared stories with Buddhist monks. Persian poets recited verses as Chinese traders bartered over bolts of silk. And Arab astronomers mapped the stars beside Mongol scholars and Indian mathematicians. In these oases, surrounded by endless sand, entire civilizations met face to face and learned to understand one another. One of the most beautiful gifts carried along the Silk Road was Buddhism. From India, monks journeyed eastward, following the trade routes that wound through Central Asia and into China. They carried not wealth, but words, sutras written on palm leaves, and statues of the Buddha carved in stone. Along the way, Buddhist monasteries bloomed like flowers in the desert. Dunhuang, Turpan, and Kucha became sanctuaries of learning and peace, where weary travelers could rest and pray. The art created in these places blended the gentle spirit of India with the elegance of China and the realism of Greece, giving birth to the serene faces we now see in ancient Buddhist murals and statues. But just as Buddhism flowed east, Islam, Christianity, Zoroastrianism, and Manichaeism flowed west. No faith walked alone on the Silk Road. Temples, mosques, and churches stood side by side beneath the same stars. And though each traveler carried their own gods, they shared the same fire, the same bread, and the same hope beneath the night sky. Art became the common language of the road. A piece of silk from China might be dyed with indigo from India, painted with patterns inspired by Persia, and finally sold in a Roman port. Glassware from the Mediterranean gleamed in the palaces of Xi'an. Persian carpets found their way to Kyoto, and the patterns of Central Asian weavers would one day influence designs in Venice and Istanbul. This was not just trade, it was transformation. And in that transformation, the spirit of curiosity awakened. Scholars along the road exchanged manuscripts, astronomy from Baghdad, medicine from Alexandria, geometry from India, and philosophy from Greece. Ideas mixed like spices in a market stall, creating new ways of thinking. In this way, the Silk Road quietly gave birth to entire ages of discovery, centuries before the world would realize it. Perhaps the greatest beauty of the Silk Road was its humanity. A road built not by kings or armies, but by hands, the hands of merchants, monks, and wanderers who sought connection. They faced the same dangers, the same deserts, and the same longing for home. And so the Silk Road became something more than trade. It became trust. As centuries passed, the world changed. Empires rose and fell, yet the road endured, shimmering like a thread of light between civilizations. The exchanges of this age would echo for 1,000 years in art, in belief, and in the very language of beauty itself. Every road
no matter how great, must one day fall silent. Even the Silk Road, that living river of trade, faith, and dreams, began to fade. Not all at once, but slowly, like a candle burning down to its final flame. For centuries it had connected the East and West, from the great walls of China to the shores of the Mediterranean. But time, as always, reshaped the world, and the road that once carried the pulse of humanity began to grow still. It started with the rise of new powers. In the 14th century, the Mongol Empire, which had united the Silk Road under one banner, began to crumble. As the empire fractured, its protection disappeared. Bandits and warlords returned to the deserts, and merchants found the once safe routes now filled with danger. The great cities that had thrived on trade, Samarkand, Bukhara, Dunhuang, Merv, began to empty. Caravans still passed, but fewer with each year. The once golden roads were now haunted by silence. Then came the Black Death, the plague that swept across Eurasia in the mid-13th century. Carried in part along the very trade routes that once spread ideas and art, it brought devastation to millions. Whole cities vanished, caravans stopped. The road that once united humanity now carried fear. When the plague's shadow passed, the world that remained was changed. Empires had weakened, and merchants began to seek new paths. In the West, Europe's age of exploration had begun. Sailors and explorers, men like Marco Polo's successors, sought sea routes to the east. Ships left the ports of Venice, Lisbon, and Genoa, sailing around Africa, across oceans, and into new worlds. The sea became the new Silk Road, faster, safer, and filled with endless possibilities. The ancient land route through Central Asia grew empty. The camel bells grew faint, and the sands began to reclaim the old roads. In China, too, change came swiftly. The Ming dynasty, focused inward, built walls and fortresses, closing their borders to protect against invasion. The open gates of the Silk Road grew still. Only echoes of the old caravans remained, soft as dust, faint as memory. And yet, though the road itself faded, its spirit never died. Because what the Silk Road gave to humanity was far greater than silk, gold, or trade. It gave us connection. It taught empires to listen to one another. It blended art, language, and belief until the world was richer for it. It showed us that even across deserts and mountains, strangers could meet and find common dreams. The Silk Road became a memory woven into the human soul. Its legacy can still be seen today in the temples of Dunhuang, where ancient murals glow like starlight, in the poetry of Persia, in the blue tiles of Samarkand, in the spices that fill every kitchen on earth. Even in the languages we speak and the music we play, echoes of the Silk Road still hum softly through time. Modern highways, railways, and fiber optic cables now trace its ancient paths, Some call them the new Silk Roads. But the truth is, the road never truly ended. It merely changed form, waiting for those who still seek to connect the world one story at a time.